All right, many people have speculated over the years why David Lee Roth fell out of favor with the Van Halen brothers, whether for personal reasons or professional reasons. And in numerous interviews, David Lee Roth has mentioned one recurring theme about his relationship with Van Halen, the band, and the Van Halen brothers. And let's take a listen right here to him talking back in 1985 why he was unhappy with being in the band. Here's David Lee Roth talking.
My life, all the things that were involved there, all these ancillary things, the video world, the wardrobe, you name it, the staging, the live, the advertising, that'd be my life, And then change the system, start change the way we're going to go about our business, and I stopped having fun. I gotta go, man. I gotta be active, gotta accomplish something. I don't know. Gotta be a shining example. I'm not sure of what, but we gotta go. And things were just starting to slow down with the band, It was take time, take more time. I want to go in the studio for a year. The studio for a year? I can't stand the inside of the studio anyways from the beginning,
So what he's saying right there is that he has a strong drive to get things done at all times, to spend his time as wisely as possible, pursuing goals and ambitions, whereas Eddie and Alex wanted to just take their time in the studio and be meticulous with crafting their forthcoming material. Now, I also want to reference an interview that was done in 2012 when David Lee Roth interviewed Eddie and Alex Van Halen. And in this interview, they talk about the really hectic recording schedule they faced in the early days of Van Halen. So now let's give that a listen.
And on top of that, it was a two record a year deal.
That was like Beatle time, 1960s level stuff.
So we had 3 weeks to record another record, and boom, we went straight out on tour again.
Did we do it within 3 weeks?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
When did we have the second batch of material done? I remember
it was right on the road, man.
I remember we did like a 40-song demo that made it onto the internet in bits and pieces at this point. But did we write material on the road?
Yeah. Well, I was
and did we learn it in the studio, or did we actually practice it up before we went?
Put it this way, Van Halen.
I think we may have practiced it for about a week at your house.
Yeah, but I remember it's like the first record took about a week to 7 days to do. The second record took about 3 weeks to do, because that's all we had.
All right, now this is the point that I want to center in on, which is that in the early days, like many other bands, Van Halen was forced for professional commercial reasons to produce material very quickly. And when they weren't in the studio recording albums, they were on the road. If you listen to this full interview, what they're talking about is they had toured the world a couple of times and they were in debt to Warner Brothers. They owed them an album and they had to go back out on tour because they owed them a bunch of money, even though they had gone platinum. So they were on this treadmill of productivity and touring and incessant working. And this is where David Lee Roth says he felt most comfortable. Clearly, that kind of workload took its toll on Eddie. And I think that this is the real reason why David Lee Roth wanted to be out of the band, is because in his mind, he saw himself going on to get another band to make albums, movies when he wasn't in the studio with them or on tour, and he saw his celebrity increasing. Meanwhile, in actuality, what happened was his star peaked with Van Halen and then began to fall. Now, at the same time, when Van Halen started to record in 5150 Studios, Eddie's studio, and they took longer and longer and longer to make albums till their productivity slowed to a trickle, the material also changed drastically from what it was on the David Lee Roth era albums. Now, I'm going to ask you, do you feel that the longer recording times, the longer times in the studio that Van Halen had for their later albums improved the material, or did that long studio time detract from the material. This isn't exactly the same as saying, do you prefer David Lee Roth to Sammy Hagar? It's saying, do you feel that Van Halen improved as a band because they were able to spend longer amounts of time working on their studio albums? Or do you feel that the earlier era, where they were rushing to get their material recorded to fulfill their obligations to the record company, resulted in better songs and better material? Now, I leave it up to you. In this case, I'm not going to give you my opinion, but I will say this much. I feel like the drive to fulfill a business obligation is different than the drive to fulfill a creative obligation. On the other hand, sometimes a really strong, unshakable deadline can help an artist become more creative. This is what I think, but what really matters is what you think. So if you have an idea about this or any other topic connected to classic or contemporary music, please drop it in the section below, and remember to like and subscribe. Thanks a lot.